There are a few general principles of CATAN that every player should know. Number 1, ore and wheat are the most valuable resources in the game. Number 2, you should favor rare resources with your first placement. Number 3, no wheat equals defeat. It's used for everything production related. Number 4, wood and brick are resource pairs if you're looking to build roads and settlements. Number 5, ore and wheat are resource pairs for cities and development. Number 6, don't hoard resources. Spend what you have, or you're likely to get robbed. Number 7, if in doubt, buy a development card. Number 8, you must have ore to win. Number 9, resource production is more important than victory points when you're below 7 points. Number 10, bargain hard. Make trades that are worth your while. Number 9, the initial placement. Your initial placement is your single most important decision in the game because it'll determine your strategy for the whole game, signal your intent to your adversaries, and it'll also set you up for utter domination. This choice is also completely dependent on your board state. There are 4 major considerations here. Number 1, what resources you'll get long-term and immediately. Number 2, how many pips you'll occupy. Number 3, how you'll position yourself tactically relative to your opponents. And 4, what ports can you likely claim. The challenge with this placement is making your decision under pressure. Knowing that it's an important choice and having players rushing you to make a decision can be challenging. So here's a few rules to follow. Choose a placement that has a total of 12 or 13 pips. Those are the dots on the tiles. Don't place where you are likely to be cut off. Avoid board edges on your first placement. Carefully plan your route to a port that you can likely win. If a resource is scarce, choose it. This makes you a valuable trading partner. The strategy that most consistently wins games is the balanced approach. Try for one of each resource. This will give you options down the road and prevent you from stagnating if the rolls don't go your way. And if possible, focus more on wheat and ore so you can build tall rather than building wide. But also take note of which resource is most plentiful on the board and lock down the 2-to-1 port of that particular resource. If you can land a wood and brick on your second choice, your ability to expand your road quickly can be a huge early game benefit. Place settlements to negatively impact other players' options, such as cutting off their roads, placement, or blocking their path to a vital resource. If you're in first position, choose the highest yield, highest scarcity position. If in doubt, choose ore and wheat. Second position, as a rule, the more balanced the board, the later you want to place. Most boards have at least 2 high yield spots, so go for the next rarest resource. Third position, choose a flexible position, the rarest resource, or the best access to a strong port. And if you're the 4th player to position, 2 back-to-back settlements means strong strategy synergy since you know exactly what you're getting, so you should consider placing blocking settlements. Let's talk now about overall strategy. There are 4 core strategies to this game. Number 1 is the balanced approach. Number 2 is a wood brick road building strategy. Number 3 is an ore wheat city building strategy. And number 4 is the port strategy. The one you choose is dependent on many factors. Your personal comfort may dictate which one is best for you. Who your opponents are will absolutely matter. And if other players beat you to the road building expansionist strategy, don't even bother competing with them. Pivot to the less traveled road. Pun intended. One of the most consistent ways to win is the ore wheat sheep strategy, going for the largest army and strong production with cities. Based on the board state, you'll need to be ready to pivot since other players likely know that this is the best strategy as well. And if you have to, you can go for the wood brick road strategy as a second choice to set yourself up as a strong trading partner. Number 7, the initial road. Where should you place it? Well, as a general rule of thumb in CATAN, you should place your first road pointing towards the outside of the board. If you aim inward, it signals your intent, and you'll likely often get blocked by somebody else who sees an opportunity to sabotage your game. By pointing the road to the outside, you give yourself an advantage in getting to the port of your choice, and it's less likely that another player will start a straight-up foot race with you when there are easier ways for them to get a port. So anticipate the future when you place your settlements and set yourself up for a port that will convert the resources you have and the resources available in large quantities on the board. Number 6, public information. There's a ton of public information available to you in CATAN. All this meta information is valuable to you and may be what separates you from players who are focused purely on their own positions. Players must honestly tell you how many cards they have, what cards are traded, and the number of development cards in the bank and around the table. You can openly see what resources each player is earning, which will also tell you what their early game or primary strategy is. You can see who is cooperative and which players are working together, Having this information can be valuable because you can make it publicly known when it benefits you. You can improve your position in a negotiation, and you can even bluff more effectively. For example, if you have a development card on the table and ask how many brick are left in the bank, your opponents will likely suspect that you have a monopoly card, and this may result in them dumping those cards as fast as possible so as to avoid losing them to your bluff. And if you can remember the last round of resources that were acquired and that are likely still in hand, you have more power to bargain, knowing what they might need and what they might have in excess of. All right, let's move on to development cards. Remember that the Monopoly card is very strong. If you have the Monopoly card, remember to ask for what resource people have, rather than simply what you want. If in doubt, pay attention to what resources are statistically yielding the most on your particular board. Wait until a 7 hasn't been rolled for a while so the hands are rich with plunder. And remember, though, if you burn the other players badly, they aren't likely to help you anymore, especially if you played a dirty Monopoly card where you traded them resources and then stole them back with this card. Most game winners don't have both the largest army and the longest road. On average, people win this game with the largest army about the same amount as they win with the longest road. Few players win the game with neither of these, so it's important to get one or the other. Trading is one of the best ways to amplify your chances of winning. Many players take this for granted. Offer to trade often. Some players are so focused that they don't notice when they have a great opportunity to trade with you. So take advantage of that. One way to encourage trades is to coordinate what you gain with what your opponent gains. So for example, if you gain a wood when a 5 is rolled and your opponent gains a brick on a 5, you both need what the other player has. It's a mutually synergistic relationship. So make yourself a viable option to trade with. If you always say no to trades, people will just stop asking. It's human nature. Or they'll be suspicious when you do ask. By choosing scarce resources, you'll be certain to have a valuable trading portfolio at your disposal. So I've saved the social game for number 3. If we break down what determines the outcome of this game, it would likely be approximately 20% luck, 20% strategy, 10% knowledge of the stats, 10% memory, and 40% social interaction, in my opinion. And I know many newer players will strongly disagree with these numbers and likely feel the game is 75% luck, but that doesn't explain why experienced players win this game so much more. According to the 2018 world champion, Quetzal Jimenez, CATAN is at its heart a social game. If the players at the table don't like you, they can work together to actively shut you down. The language you use, the verbal and nonverbal cues you display, and how you decide to share or not share information are all parts of how players will interact with you. Using positive body language like smiling and making eye contact can go a long way. If players are willing to trade with you or unwilling to rob you because you're a nice person or someone they like, you can gain massive advantages early on. Later in the game, these benefits are likely to dry up, but if you get blocked early, it will be difficult to get your engine rolling. The more trades players get, the more likely they are to win. Pay attention to tournament finalists, and you'll likely find that they're very charismatic people. Number 2, the dreaded robber. One of the most frustrating parts of this game is this stinking robber, especially if you have a city building strategy and multiple players work together to shut you down. Defending yourself from the robber is critical, and here are 4 direct ways to do it. 1. If you have multiple development cards in hand, people will likely not block you, knowing that you can retaliate immediately, and all their placement would do is antagonize you. So make sure that they know that you have those cards. You can also use your memory of the public information to redirect the attack towards another player who has the resource that the robbing player needs. 3rd, point to another player or players who are ahead in the game and show why they would make a better target. Remind them that neutral robber placements can also avoid antagonizing anyone at the table if there's someone who's a little nervous about that. And lastly, suggest a way that you can help that player down the road if they kindly allow you to use your tile. Sometimes they may take pity on you, or sometimes they might want the trade that you're offering them. More indirect ways of avoiding the robber blockage are having multiple ways of earning the same income. Doesn't matter if you get hit. Having a port that you can pivot to. Having the second best space on the board rather than the best. And 2 to 3 pip tiles are very unlikely to be blocked because it's just not worth it. Unless, of course, you've really angered the person. We're on now to number 1, the CATAN Endgame. Most players will fly under the radar until they get to about 7 points. And that's when your opponents will actively block you, refuse to trade with you, and rob you every chance they get. They'll also unite the table against you. These last 3 points are the hardest to get. So what's the best way to get them? Both both the longest road and the largest army are only worth 2 points, and you likely shouldn't go for both, so pair one of those. Either one will work with a few settlement drops or a city upgrade. But there are also some other conditions that will set you up to win. Firstly, you need to be counting the victory points around the table every single round. How many points do the other players have, and what do they need to win? While this seems self-evident, sometimes you can get blinded by 9 points and fail to notice someone else's power play. Also, you should be sure not to flaunt your points. Don't make a big deal about upgrading a settlement. Don't get too far ahead on points by winning the longest road too early. Hold on to your knight until the right moment to take it, either to prevent another player from winning or when you're ready to strike. You also need to pay attention to ports, which are critical for the win. No one will trade with you for the win, so you need to be self-sufficient in case the rolls don't go your way. And lastly, remember that someone at the table may play Kingmaker. If you haven't treated them well, they may well hand the game to someone else. So my final tip to you is, just don't be a jerk when you play CATAN. Our channel loves helping you win more with strategy guides, so let us know what guide you'd like next. Now get out there, get gaming, and be legendary.